Hello, my name is Lauren Moon. This is my video for the LLWW 2016 Pen Swap Challenge. I'm just going to go through the process of creating the pen. I'm going to just pan around with the camera and point out the different things, and I don't have a whole lot. I do have a blank that I'm going to use for a little bit of the demonstration of the turning of the blank, but I've already completed the pen, and I just want to give the information of what I used, and definitely not the only way to create a pen, but it's just what worked for me. Okay, this is the pen blank, already completed and finished. Just got to do the assembly. It is olive and walnut with a piece of aluminum between each segment. And I just took the pen blanks and cut them at a 25-degree angle on the bandsaw, which is here. I had a piece of wood I clamped down as a fence for keeping the width the same on all the segments. And then another piece of wood here used against the miter gauge to provide support with the wide gap in between. And you can see some of the segments, and there's one and a piece of aluminum, so you can kind of see the size of the pieces. And just started stacking them up and went through with epoxy and glued them all together. And I'd only get 4 or 5 pieces epoxy together and then get them clamped as it started to get stiff and starting to set up. So then I would get it clamped together and then move on to the next 4 or 5 pieces, getting them epoxy together, and then join the 2 groups, and then keep adding on until I got completed with all the parts needed to make the pen blank big enough. And there's this section. This one's actually going to go to a bolt action pen, so the blank is actually a little bit smaller, but that is kind of what it looks like before being turned when it's all blue. I do want to note on the belt sander here, I took each piece and just, without turning it on, just went by hand to sand each side down to make sure they're all flat after going through the bandsaw, and also with the aluminum so that it would give a rough side for adhesion with the epoxy to make sure everything's stuck together. Okay, here's the blank on the mandrel ready to go. The biggest thing here is just take tiny cuts. Do not take off too much all at once or you're going to tear the ends off. I have done that with the first one, had to stop and was able to glue it back on and complete it, but then you got that time where you got to stop and deal with that, where just a little extra patience, taking your time, very light cuts, and should be able to get through it. And I'll get started. Like I said, just very small cuts, just going to go a little bit at a time. Too big of a cut, it could catch the aluminum and rip a piece out. So just take the time, use some patience, and you'll eventually get through it. It does take a little bit longer, but then you're not having to stop and glue it, hopefully. I'll keep going and come back when I'm further along. Okay, I've almost got it completely round now, and I found on a few of them that if I start working on the end and start coming in and rounding off this end and getting that down and just get the ends down, get those corners coming at a little bit of an angle, we're not going at the aluminum almost straight on, it also helps avoid and tearing those off. And so I'll continue with that, then I'll go back to bringing down the rest of the middle to the correct diameter. Okay, now I've got it turned almost completely round, and at this point then I'm going to go to the edges and get them tapered down a little bit more so I don't have as much of a chance of catching that aluminum on the ends and tearing the end pieces off. I've done that edge, turn all the way down to the bushing, and I'll do the same on the other side. You can see from the filings on the tool rest that I'm just barely taking a scraping cut, just barely shaving anything off, and that way it'll ensure that I'm not going to get a catch, or less likely. And I'll just continue on and show you more as I get closer to being done. Okay, there it is turned down. I am going to start sanding. I start with 150 all the way up through 800. After 320, I'll apply a finish of shellac, boiled linseed oil, and denatured alcohol, and then finish on sanding up to 800. Then I'll apply the super glue finish and then a plastic polish. And I'll come back after I've got it sanded. Okay, this is after the 320 and the finish being applied. Going from left to right, the wood is Padauk, walnut, cherry, purple heart, olive, and then repeating with the Padauk again. So now I'll continue sending on through up to 800, and I'll be back when I'm ready for the super glue. Alright, switched out for the high density plastic bushings. Thanks to RGB Woodturning for that tip on one of his videos. And then I'm going to just go through the first part of the CA application, and I'll do in total about 10 coats of the thin CA and then 2 coats of the medium just to get it smoothed over and even before I do the micro mesh sanding. And there's 2 coats, and after 2 coats I use the activator, and then I'll just continue until I've got a total of 10, and then I'll do the same thing with each coat of the medium, and then I would move on to sanding from there. So I'll come back. Okay, this is after all the super glue's been applied. I am going to go through and sand with the micro mesh. It does have a little bit of a shine, but it's going to get better when it's all sanded down with the plastic polish. Okay, for the assembly of the Falcon pen, you just decide where you want to place the cap. Put it right here. And then I use the headstock and tailstock to press the parts together on my lathe. If I can, I'll use the bushing from the set to protect the other end and just bring it together here. And the other end, just place the spring over the refill, insert it to the front half, screw on the transmission, and then you just slide it in to the body of the pen. That is it. And it's complete. Okay, that is the process I used for making a pen in this challenge. The pen I selected is the Falcon pen from Penn State. I actually made 2 pens just in case one failed. They both turned out just fine. The top one is walnut and olive, and the bottom one is 2 pieces of cherry and purple heart, and there's a piece of aluminum between each piece. Okay, it's been a few days now. I just got home and found a package in the mail. First, I'd like to thank Lynn Lacey for hosting the pen challenge. It's been a lot of fun, and looking forward to seeing the other pins have been completed. Without any further delay, let's see what my partner Andy has said. He sent a message previously saying that it was made from spalted hickory and sapele. If you can see that, it kind of wraps around. and it does have really nice grain. It's a really nice pen. Thanks a lot, Andy. And I'd like to thank everyone else who entered the challenge and made this a real fun challenge to participate in. Thanks again, and take care.